Okay. I was looking for something, but I'm not able to find it right now. Okay. One thing I want to let you all know is that your capacity builders, toolbox, the things that you practice doesn't have to look like mine. You know what I'm saying? Yes, I will talk about certain things and I have my own personal interests, but it just may not be for you. But then the other thing is, it may not be the season for you as well. And you're going to get what I'm talking about. Okay. So today we're talking about capacity builders. And again, yours don't have to look like mine, not at all, because the goal isn't to be a copycat. Now, the goal is to look for ways of how you can build your capacity, but it's not to say, oh, well, Sharon's doing all of these things. Well, let me do these things too. No, 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 no. You have to look at, yeah, what you can benefit from, but where you are, it's like what you need. And we'll get more into that. And so today, is all about capacity builders. But I want to back up a little bit. I want to make sure that you understand, especially as a purpose driven woman, what capacity is. First of all, capacity is the ability to be able to show up in your calling, to be able to, I don't want to say to complete it, but it's pretty much to show up in your calling physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. All of those things is to be able, is to have the, again, capacity, but pretty much have the mental ability, the physical ability, sometimes even the financial ability, but to be able to have the ability to show up. Because sometimes as women, I don't know where we got the message from. Sometimes you feel like you got to do all of this or got to say yes to everything, especially someone in need. We'll be addressing that along the way. But again, but in order for you to have the ability, it has to come from somewhere. Again, it can't come from an empty cup. And then at the same time, you may have some leaks in your cup. And so, in one sense, you are on a regular basis building your capacity because it's about sustaining. And sometimes I don't really like to use the word build. That's one reason that I use the word cultivate. Because one thing that I've learned, especially by being a therapist, is words really do matter. And sometimes with some individuals, you look at, oh, I'm building this, and then that's to say you did that and you think you're supposed to stop. It doesn't work that way when it comes to your well-being, and that's your overall well-being, whether it's mental, physically, spiritually, even financially. Is that it's not a one-stop thing. It is something that you continue to do. You know what I mean? But anyway, to make sure that you are get the best out of this conversation that we're having today. Again, these are the things that we're going to cover. Capacity builders are different for each person, and then for different seasons. And you build your capacity toolbox beforehand. I've seen so many times because this happened even on the medical or the physical side, in that people go to the doctors, oh, my blood pressure is high and this and that. And doctors really do tell you to change your eating habits and to exercise. Now, all of that, the details of that, that's not their specialty. their specialty is to let you know what's going on. So you already know there's some high blood pressure. So other than taking the medication, what else are you doing? What is in your toolbox? So this is the same thing when it comes to cultivating your capacity for your calling. What is in your toolbox so that you'll have the ability to show up and not be drained or depleted or even detached from yourself. There's a story I got to tell you about that, but we will get there. I'm going to say eventually we're going to get there. And so the other thing I want to say too, especially when you are depends on where you are in your entrepreneurship, depends on where you are when it comes to your calling. Because the other thing is, and I'm going to put this as a side note, because this is something that I had to wrap my head around. Sometimes some of you all do have a calling, but you do not look at it as a business. You don't look at yourself as an entrepreneur. But one thing that I would tell you, the sooner you do that, the better off you will be. I'm just going to leave it there for now, and we'll visit that again at another time. And so when it comes to capacity builders, the things that you put into your toolbox, it's very personal, y'all. It is very personal. And these are the things, for the most part, we consider as self-care. These are the vehicles that help you to have the ability to show up, to have the energy to show up. You know what I mean? And so, like for this morning, instead of going for a walk, I cut my grass. I traded it off, you know? And one thing I can say is like I had that time, I want to say it really wasn't a break per se, but I just had that time in between before I came on. And I feel so energized, y'all. And so it's also about you testing things out. Because sometimes it's like you get up in the morning, you do your thing, and you get right into, let's say, the work. But sometimes you may need some space in between that before you do that. But anyway, when it comes to restoring your energy, restoring the things that you need in order for you to show up, it's different. For those of you who've been following me for a while, I talk about self-care. I talked about meditation, sitting in silence. If you've heard my story, you heard me talk about yoga and walking and things. And even though I do highly encourage those things, but they may not be for you. I will get into a story later. You'll get the point. And so for you, capacity builders, it could be walking, it could be meditation, it could be prayer, it could be journaling. And I'm going to say this. Planning is a must. It really is. And when I say that, I'm telling myself this as well. I'm getting better with it. It could be music, listening to music. And I'm going to have to say different types of music for different moods and momentum because of the fact certain type of music, it can pretty much, it puts you in a certain mood. So that mood that you're creating can pretty much determine like the momentum that you have. So that means is what kind of rhythm is it? Is it, slow and relaxing? And you're like, oh, or is it something that's upbeat? And don't be getting anything sad, y'all. Even though you may have a heartbreak or something, but don't be listening to no sad music or anything because it resonated with you. Don't do that. And even be careful with gospel music as well, because some of those gospel songs, when you really listen to the words, again, be very intentional of what you're going to put into your toolbox. And this one is big, y'all. Community. community, and I'm going to say this, allow that to be part of how you build, how you cultivate your capacity, because we really do need community. Even though I'm all about, what we need to do for ourselves and go internal, and it's like there's a thing of social sacred space and then sacred space. They both are needed. They both are needed. And so, in saying that, get yourself in community. And one thing I'm going to say too, one thing that I have seen, especially like in the business community, in the entrepreneur, and where people are starting out and somewhere in the middle, and I'm going to say at all stages, sometimes there is not enough energy, enough thing when it comes to cultivating your capacity. And this is why I'm here. I'm here to help you with that. I'm here to remind you of that, because of the fact if you are not naturally inclined into pouring into yourself, even though you know you need to do it, you need a reminder. And this is just kind of how the brain works, y'all. It really, really is. This is why we put ourselves in circles, in communities, in incubators, so that you can grow and expand, but also to be able to maintain and sustain as well. And so, with those things, and you're probably asking, do they really help build your capacity? The one thing I'm going to say, try it out. Try it out. Try it out. Seriously, that's the only way you're going to know. Do not, as they say, do not judge a book by its cover. Do not judge an activity just because it looks intimidating, just because you're uncomfortable. You need some of those things to help you to cultivate your capacity so that you will have the ability, again, to show up for your calling. This is why. Now, I said I was going to talk about there are different seasons. Different seasons require different capacity builders. And these are capacity builders, but these are also the same thing to help you to sustain as well. And so, in saying that, what worked for you years ago may not be the same thing that works for you now. And depends on what season that you are in your life, it may need to change anyway. It's almost like medication. You can have been taking a medication. I can remember years ago with my GERD, with my acid reflux. I tried a couple of different medications. Right now, I can't even remember the name of it because it's been a while since I've been on medication for it. But then whatever medication that I ended up on, I was on that medication like for 10 years. I really was. And all of a sudden, it just stopped working. It just like, boop, we're not working anymore. And I tried like several different medications. And then the insurance company was like, oh, you're going to have to use this. It's like, I use that and it's not beneficial. But anyway, between me and my doctor, we ended up, they're ended up prescribing a certain medication. And then I did that and I used that medication for some time until eventually I'm like, okay, I got to wane off this medication. You know what I mean? And so I did a little bit more research and was able to get waned off. So that is a really good example of how something can be working for a period of time and it can be your go-to. It's good to be able to have your go-to, but sometimes it just may not be the thing to go to at that moment, and you won't know it until that time. And you're going to hear me talk about it as well. And so there are certain times in your life in which, again, the capacity builders, the capacity things that you have in your toolbox just may not be for what you need. And one thing I want to say, being in transition is one of those times. Whereas when you find out quickly, ooh, this ain't working no more. This used to be my go-to. You find that out. Grief is another one as well. So I'm going to say this: when you embody, have the mindset and embody, it's like, hey, I am adding these things, I'm doing these different self-care rituals and all these things so that you can be better, so that you can, again, sustain your capacity, and at least you won't be underground or be breaking down. And this is where these things are really, really helpful. You know, oh, y'all, being a caregiver. I don't care what level that you are a caregiver. I don't care if you are, arranging the appointments and talking to the doctors regarding medications and transporting, whatever, or physically, helping, a loved one and supporting a loved one. Yeah, that is definitely, and you will hear more about that as well. Um, mm, Business growth, transitioning into entrepreneurship is like, okay, I gotta step up. What do I need to do? Leadership pressure, especially when you work for corporations. That's another one. Family transitions, and just any transition, any major change, even when it comes to a heartbreak, or shall I say a breakup, because our breakup may not be heartbreaks per se. And so, what does this mean? This means that, what does the season require from you? This is the thing that I want you to think about, because that's going to help you determine what self-care routine or ritual that you need to do. Because again, just like whether it's a headache, it's a medication, you've been taking a medication, like every time you get a headache, you take, let's say, Tylenol, I'm just naming that. And then all of a sudden, it just doesn't work anymore, but it could be, it could be elevated, it could be a migraine. So whether it's a headache or a migraine, whatever it is, it just stopped working. And so that means that something else need to be, it needs to be addressed. I'm going to put it like that when it gets to all of that. And so when you're looking at the fact is, what does this season, what does this moment, because sometimes it may not be a season, it just may be a moment. What does it require from you right now? And what will help you to have the capacity for what you need in that moment? Then when it's in that moment, it helps for that moment. When it is a season of something, that means multiple repetition of the thing that you're doing. And it could be different things as well. Now, so we talked about capacity being personal. That is for you. There are certain things that I love, and I'm going to introduce you to those things. And eventually I'll introduce you to things that, hey, it may not be my cup of tea, but it may be somebody else's cup of tea. And then we just talked about the different seasons that, when it comes to your capacity, that would be beneficial. You know what I mean? So with that, build your capacity toolbox, not only along the way, but before you need it. And y'all, just like when it comes to our physical health, this is where we fall short. And like when it comes to our mental wellness, when it comes to our mental well-being, I've seen this over and over and over and over again. And this is one of the reasons why I'm doing this work, in that people wait for chaos, challenges, and crisis before they do anything. And on the physical side, because we see it all the time, again, someone, let's say when it comes to pre-diabetes, it's like, oh, let's keep an eye out on this. When it comes to high blood pressure, let's keep an eye out on this. You don't have to be on medication, but what is it that you are doing to change that? And even though, especially like when it comes to high blood pressure, it's said, oh, that this is stress. And yes, it is stress. You have no control over of the stressor. It's just some, not always, some control over or how it impacts you. So we're not getting into that here. That's another conversation as well. But the thing is that do something, because I've seen it over and over and over again. And for those of you who don't know me, I am a therapist as well. And my big thing here is about building our capacity. And I want us to do it on its simplest form. But one thing I've seen, let's just take anxiety for an example. It's on a continuum. We all have a little bit of anxiety, and then it's on the form of let's just say it's on a continuum, you know. And there are things that you can do. And one thing that I can say, I have always done this even before I understood it, is that I've always told people to breathe. I didn't even understand it. But it was something I did for myself back when I was in middle school. No one told me. But one thing that people have found over and over again in my clinical setting is to be able to breathe. Now, one thing that I will say, just like when it comes to weight, when people lose weight, you looking at your food and your exercise. And of course, you're not going to do it at the same level that you did it when you were, focused on losing the weight. But what are you doing to sustain the weight, but to be healthy as well? You still got to look at the food. You still got to exercise. And so when it comes to your well-being of having the capacity for your calling to be able to sustain the things that come along the way, is to intentionally have some breath work, intentionally meditate, intentionally doing the things that's going to help you to be well. Yeah, you. And y'all, some of these things you can easily integrate throughout your day. And I'm big about, because I'm assuming that there's a morning and let's just say there's an evening routine. But what I've seen is beneficial to integrate what I call the Take 5 to Thrive capacity builders throughout the day. And again, when it comes to walking, go out and walk for 5 minutes. You can sit at your desk, but actually, if you can move away from your desk for 5 minutes and do some intentional breathing. And so, again, adding these up, because one thing that I do encourage individuals who experience more of a higher level of the anxiety is that the more that you practice it, because again, these are not just things you do when the chaos happen, when the challenges happen, when the crisis happen. It's for you to prepare for it. Because I am big about nurturing your nervous system, reconditioning, rebuilding your nervous system, and training your nervous system. So this is where this comes in. And for those of you who don't know, when it comes to your nervous system, it's that part of us, of the nervous system, and there's two parts. We're all familiar with the fight, flight, freeze, and the fawn. And we need them, but we don't want it to be overactive where it's constantly in survival mode. And then the rest and digest. And because when it comes to some of these digestive issues that we have, And so it's really important for us to be able to learn about those things and not just be doing them, but learn about those things for ourselves, especially if you have issues in those areas. And so, again, a capacity builder could be my goal is, I encourage you to do it for 5 minutes, but even if it's just for 60 seconds, it's, and especially if you are, like feeling overwhelmed or overstimulated, this is the best thing that you can do. And again, you can do 5 minutes of walking, of breathing, of meditating, of listening to music, of doing something fun. And don't be, getting on the internet and strolling. No, we're not talking about that type of activation. Now I don't know about doing no, what you call it, power nap. I want to say my power naps really don't last that long. Or should I say my power naps really last too long? But for those of you who could do 10-minute power naps, good for you. I'm so happy for you. But definitely, if you're able to sit in silence, again, if you can do it for 15 minutes, that's even better. Because that is how you can get into the rest and digest part of the nervous system. But all of these are intentional, y'all. Intentional. Then there is the relational capacity builder. And this is where we come into community. And like the community that I'm building is fortitude and free. Because in order to be free, you have to fortify yourself. And you fortify yourself by one of those things is to cultivate your capacity. And so I don't want you to think that because you're overwhelmed or overstimulated that something is wrong with you. No, it's just pretty much, to be honest, is how the body is reacting, because sometimes we be having too much. And sometimes, y'all, we be overstimulating ourselves. So be very mindful about your screen time. Even though you're watching me and this is beneficial, but don't be on there for hours and hours and hours at a time and be strolling, because you are training yourself for something else. That's the main thing I'm going to say. And so, in certain moments throughout the day, you can ask yourself, what do you need right now? But if you are in a transition, definitely ask yourself, what does this season require of you? And what will help your capacity at that particular time? Now, I'm going to say that this is a transparent moment, y'all, because there have been different times in my life that I have needed different type of capacity builders. Now, at the time, I didn't call it that. I just knew I needed something that was going to help. And so with that, when my mom was in the hospital, when that medical mayhem, medical mishap, medical mystery, and all of those things were going on, that was a 90-day mess. That's the one thing I could call it. It was for 90 days. And just as a daughter, like even if I wasn't doing anything, just as a daughter, the impact that has, Now, initially when I started, initially I was, going to the gym. That's what I call my aerobic days. You know what I'm saying? I used to get up, 5 o'clock in the morning to go to the gym. But anyway, what I ended up doing is, and it wasn't because of my mom per se, but it was very helpful. I started walking during my lunch break. And that was because I needed something to help again throughout the day. That was a different season in my life, going from a worker to a supervisor, and like, oh, I gotta have something so I can keep my mind. And so I decided to go walking during my, at least part of my lunch break. Now, what else did I ended up doing? Again, different seasons can require different things. Sometimes it can require different things or more of. And more of is one of the things I really do highlight for my clinical clients. But like after the breakup, I was exercising. I was on my elliptical, had my headset on, and it was like, oh, oh. And I'm like, emotionally, this thing ain't working. You know what I'm saying? It was not decreasing my heart rate. It wasn't doing none of that stuff. Not at all. So, what I ended up doing is that I registered for a yoga class. And I'm like, yeah. And then from there, I ended up registering for yoga teacher training. And that helped so much as well. So, again, depending on the season that you're in a transition, you may need something different. And I'm going to say this, and I'm saying this even as a therapist. Yes, go to therapist. I mean, go to therapist. Go to therapy, during some of those different seasons. It can be very beneficial for you. And for some of you, depends on what your goals are, depends on what you're working on, you may end up going to a life coach. But one thing that I will say is definitely to have some type of embodiment practice. Because everything that I'm saying, for the most part, is an embodiment practice. Walking, meditation, breathing, yoga, exercising, all of those things. Because one thing that I've seen is like sometimes those things, it's much better now. And I want to say in the past several years, definitely the past 10 years, it's much better. But before it was just talk therapy, and then some life coaching. But the embodiment piece of it wasn't always included. And so the other thing is, oh man, y'all, when my stepdad had his heart attack, this is where everything I've ever known definitely has come into play. Because just by me participating in yoga, especially yoga teacher training, that helped me so much. And then, like, when it came to the breakup, the meditation, because I needed to go deeper inside myself. I call it several layers deep. And so, again, when you have so much, and even it was during one of those times in which, even when my stepdad, during that period, because he was in the hospital and in medical rehab, for 90 days as well, or maybe about 90 days. And so, in saying that, somewhere in between there, he and my mom, was in the hospital at the same time, y'all, at the same time. But I remember one time I was visiting my mom, my energy was off. I didn't know what was going on. And then I was leaving, and my brother came to check on her. We would, I just say, we were the handoff. And then she ended up having to go to the hospital. But at that particular time, I ended up getting a energy healing session. So again, depends on what you need at that moment, because I needed something. So I'm saying all of this is that you can have so many different things in your capacity builder toolbox, and you never know which one that you may need. And so, if anything, they can help you. These capacity builders, these tools, these rituals, these routines, they help you to keep going without burning yourself out. Because those are the days of like you're grinding and even in being a caregiver, you're doing all of these things for others and nothing for yourself. No, you're not going to burn yourself out. Even if you got to go in the closet or go in the bathroom and listen to some music and to incorporate radical acceptance. So again, at that particular time, I had no idea. I just knew I needed something that was going to help me. And so with all of those things, they were cultivating capacity all along. Now, as a therapist, one thing that I will say is that having capacity builders building your life, period, is something that is very beneficial for you. And to be honest, y'all, it's necessary. It is necessary. Do not wait until the ball drop. Do not wait until a crisis. Do not wait until challenges. Do not wait until chaos, because we never know when someone is going to have a heart attack or stroke. We never know when something unexpected is going to happen. And again, we're talking about these things for other people. By having our own, it can help us. If we're experiencing something ourselves, it makes the recovery. It's already research that for people who have a regular routine of exercising, capacity builders, that their recovery is almost cut in half. It really helps. And so the other part of all of this is really to be aware, y'all. To be aware of you. And it's not that you're anticipating things of happening, but you're going to be ready. Just like when we're preparing, for our calling, the things that we do when you speak somewhere or you're asking someone to invite you or you're inviting someone. Prepare your mind, prepare your spirit, prepare your emotions, prepare your body for the unknown so you can be ready. And this is what we want for you, because too many times, a lot of people really don't have a practice of taking care of themselves. I mean, how are you going to be out here saying that you got a calling, but that you're not even taking care of the vessel that you have, of the person who is so precious and a treasure? It takes it all, y'all. It really, really does. And so again, give yourself grace. There's no judgment, but definitely ask yourself the question, what do you need right now? What can you add into your cup, your toolbox? Because it is something that it is needed. And so if any of this has resonated with you, comment capacity. definitely do that because of the fact, like I said, the days are gone. And I want to make sure, y'all, that I have covered everything. And so, again, self care isn't just about the practice, it's about cultivating your capacity for the unknown. So, it's about knowing which practices that's going to help you. But I will say, at least do something. And y'all, I'm going to give you a little secret here. And this is something that I've seen in working with individuals clinically, that I've seen along the way. In that we all have natural capacity builders anyway. Certain things that you do when you're nervous, certain things that you may do when you're stressed. And most of them are pretty healthy. It's just that you just didn't know it, you know? And what I usually tell people, just do more of it. You just didn't know it. Some people rock. Some people, what is it? Tap their leg, against something. Some people hum. Some people sing. Some people write poetry or just journal. Some people may end up, like rubbing their skin. And so again, there are different things that you're probably already doing. You already have some natural things inside your capacity toolbox. Do more of them. There's nothing wrong with you. In this society, it has you thinking, it's like, oh, I gotta be strong. Even for us women, it's like, no, it's being real. You know what I'm saying? So, if any of this has resonated with you and you like sharing, you know what, I need some help with my capacity. Sometimes you may need some help in identifying what your capacity is, but especially in integrating it, because a lot of times people think they don't have any time, and that's not true at all. But what I want you to be able to do, I want you to be able to cultivate your capacity with ease and without burning out. So, if this resonated with you, comment capacity and then I'll let you know how we can connect, because I want you to be able to cultivate your capacity for your calling so that you'll have the ability to show up without burning out and without being all overwhelmed, because we don't want all of that, okay? But anyway, I will see y'all next time.